You know what? Let me bring in Ben Pickman. He is covering the situation, WNBA reporter for The Athletic. Before I get to you, Ben, I want to play Napheesa Collier now this is just a portion of what she had to say about the WNBA commissioner, Cathy Engelbert.
At Unrivaled this past February, I sat across from Cathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league. Her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlyn, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlyn should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them.
Well, Ben, pick it up from there.
Yeah, you could have picked any number of sound bites. I mean, think about any other player in any other sport doing what Napheesa Collier did. I mean, this is a potentially seminal moment in WNBA history. I just want to know how your production crew, Dan, decided on those clips and not the clip of, Napheesa Collier saying that right now the WNBA has the worst leadership in the world. I mean, this was 4 minutes of just going scorched earth and frankly telling a lot of things that seemingly a lot of players, a lot of executives, a lot of people around the league, team-wise, tend to agree with.
Do you agree with her?
I mean, I think there's certainly a lot of valid criticism in what she said. I'm not going to go so far to say that Cathy Engelbert is part of the worst leadership in the world, but I think a lot of what she said is a lot of what, someone like me hears in private. I mean, my phone was blowing up Tuesday from, the moment that Napheesa Collier's comments finished, with a lot of people really commending her for saying the quiet part out loud. And Napheesa Collier did say this in her own comments that, I'm not going to keep things private anymore. She's calling for accountability, transparency, not just on officiating, but on broader league-wide matters too.
But they have added 5 teams. I mean, let's look at both sides here, because the commissioner has done some good things, but this is negotiations, and that's where it's a war. And this is this might be the most important moment in WNBA history as we move forward.
Yeah, it's important to call that out, because since Cathy Engelbert has been the commissioner, it's around 6 years now at this point, a lot has changed in the WNBA. I mean, Cathy Engelbert used to say that the WNBA was in an existential moment. That was the word that she used in 2020. There was a potential that if they didn't play a bubble season, would the league even exist? And so a lot has changed since then. Just look at recent years. A $50 million expansion fee for the Golden State Valkyries in September 2023. That was $250 million this summer. I mean, that is crazy growth. The New York Liberty, a $450 million valuation this summer. That is all under Cathy Engelbert's watch. But what Napheesa Collier is also saying is the players are really driving that. I mean, that is what we heard, or what you can hear when she retells that story involving Caitlyn Clark. Like, that is a clear story of pitting the players against management. And yes, this is a really intense negotiation. And, these comments are not going to do anything to put less fuel on the fire. If anything, it's going to explode from here on out.
Caitlyn Clark's WNBA salary was $78,000.
Yeah.
So it's slotted that she's going to make $78,000. Yes, she makes all that money off the court, but should Caitlyn Clark be grateful that she makes $16 million off the court, according to the commissioner, through Napheesa Collier?
Yeah, I mean, we should say the commissioner said she was disheartened by the characterization of those comments, and this was Napheesa Collier relaying them. But, I mean, think about that kind of tactical move, or that decision to include Caitlyn Clark in this conversation. And we should say Napheesa Collier and Caitlyn Clark, they shared the same agent, right? So I don't think it's a coincidence that both of those players, or that Caitlyn Clark's name, rather, was mentioned in this 4.5-minute statement by Napheesa Collier. Like, there is knowledge, know-how going on there. Caitlyn Clark, obviously super, super important to the league. And one of the questions that, I was fielding yesterday was, yes, Cathy Engelbert is, has been the commissioner over this period of growth. But if you look at the next 15 years of the league, Dan, who is more important to the health, the growth of the league? Cathy Engelbert, if she's around that long, or Caitlyn Clark? I think the answer there is pretty clear.
Well, does Caitlyn Clark need the WNBA more than the WNBA needs Caitlyn Clark?
I mean, that is another big question. I feel like you could write books and articles and upon articles. Certainly, Caitlyn Clark is worth, millions, if not, I did a story earlier this season. She could be worth up to $1 billion, some people told me, to women's sports more generally. And so, yeah, I mean, Caitlyn Clark's certainly a big driver in the broader WNBA revenue conversation, the change of the business right now.
And the commissioner responded. I'm not going to read the whole statement, but she was complimentary to Napheesa Collier, who's a very bright woman. Started the Unrivaled League. It's a side league, not a competing league. But where does this go from here?
Where does it go? That is a great question. I mean, as you mentioned, the league and the players are in this contentious CBA negotiation. The deal currently expires October 31st. We'll see if they reach an extension or if, there is a work stoppage, whether it is just in the off season or down the line. May 2026 is when the 2026 season would begin. So we will see where things go. I think the tensions have only heightened from here on out. How could they not, knowing that Napheesa Collier said what she said, knowing that so many players have supported her, knowing that now there's so many more eyeballs on the WNBA and what is going on because of her comments. Like, that is what is so fascinating about this really remarkable 4-minute statement that Napheesa Collier gave on Tuesday.
There's only a certain piece of the pie available here, Ben, that I know we look at leagues and we go, they should be paid more. Well, it comes down to math. It's that amount of money that's available. We split it up, and that's what everybody is going to share in. Now you're adding 5 new franchises, so now that piece of the pie gets carved up a little bit more. And they did sign, 11-year, $2 billion, $2.2 billion TV deal. There's a lot of progress here. I worry. I thought that they tripped themselves up with the Caitlyn Clark situation. Nobody knew how to deal with her. Officials didn't. The opposition, other players, they weren't all in on her. Hey, we've got Diana Taurasi and all the people who started the league. I still don't know if they know how to handle Caitlyn Clark moving forward, because she is different than anybody else in the sport.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely is. But I want to go back to your point on splitting the pie, because I think it's really important here. Because what makes the WNBA so unique in this context is that it is owned by the NBA, that Cathy Engelbert reports up to Adam Silver, right? So there are other stakeholders here other than just WNBA owners who are important in this conversation, right? So it's not just what do the owners of the WNBA think, because even that phrase, owners of the WNBA, is a really muddled phrase, right? You have a number of franchises that are owned by the same people that also own NBA teams. 42% of the league is owned by the NBA, for instance. 42% is owned by WNBA owners. But in that 42%, well, there's some people who are in both pots here, right? And then there is another pot of 16 that also includes some people who are in both of those other pots. That is what makes the WNBA's situation about how to proceed, whether it relates to Cathy Engelbert and her job status, whether it relates to the CBA. That's part of what makes it so tricky, so unique, is there are so many stakeholders in this conversation that the league is in a really tough spot, and that's why we're in this very complicated mess that we are in.
ESPN reported over the weekend that WNBA data doesn't show a correlation between recent playoff injuries and missed calls by officials. Napheesa Collier, one of the great players in the game, called the claim, quote, an insult to my intelligence, honestly. Collier also asked the commissioner about how the league planned to address officiating. And according to Collier, the commissioner said only the losers complain about the refs.
Also strong.
Yeah.
Also strong.
Yes, but not correct, because some of the biggest complainers in the history of the NBA are Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, and great players complain about officiating as well, not losers.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that is so interesting, or that everyone is tracking, is these claims or these calls about officiating. They're not new, right? I wrote a story 2 years ago at the start of the WNBA finals all about coaches and executives and players talking about inconsistent officiating, and going back to that point that I was just making on NBA and WNBA ownership. Several people around the league, coaches, executives, they point to high yearly turnover, that multiple WNBA officials move out of the league and into the NBA, literally from 2018 to 2022. In NBA official press releases, they would use the word promotes as it relates to people moving from the WNBA, that is officials, to the NBA, right? And so there are questions, again, systemic questions about how much are officials paid, how are they trained, how are they reviewed.
But is it slanted, Ben? Are they calling different? Are they seeing something different for certain players and not others? Or are they just not great at their jobs?
I mean, it's hard for me, the layperson, to say, how correct or incorrect is an official's assessment of a call.
But they do grade them. They get graded just like NBA officials. I don't know if they're not calling enough for Caitlyn Clark or they're calling too much for it. Does she get preferential? I mean, it feels like everything circles back to Caitlyn Clark.
I mean, I think actually on this officiating conversation, though, Dan, like this is a conversation that has been going on for a number of years. I think Caitlyn Clark, like so many other topics, her presence in the league has brought more eyeballs to the topic of officiating. But you talk to people, like these frustrations are frustrations that have been held for a number of years. The league, as you're saying and you're asking, they're saying that, our officials are excellent, that they grade out incredibly well, that we don't have the same kind of problem that so many people say. But what Napheesa Collier and what others have said is, the first step in fixing a problem is acknowledging you have a problem in the first place. Like that was another, clear sentiment that she tried to voice throughout her opening statement at her exit interview.
Great stuff, Ben. Thanks for joining us. We'll be reading.
Thanks a lot for having me.
That's Ben Pickman, WNBA reporter for The Athletic.